Hi, everybody, and welcome to Monster Party.
Monster Party!
Monster Party! Yes, another spooky episode is about to hit your consciousness. And I would like to welcome my fellow Monster Partiers. First of all, I am Matt Weinhold, and then we have...
Sean Sheridan.
And Larry Stroth.
And James Gonis.
And our very special guest...
Special.
Very special guest. He is a actor, director, artist, architect,
writer,
jazzman, David...
Singer, songwriter.
Yes, David Anthony Higgins.
David.
All right.
Can we call you Dave?
Great.
Yeah, it's all right to call you Dave. All right.
Thanks for
Welcome aboard.
Do the moment of silence.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot. There's going to be a lot of silence in this thing.
Because it's a very special
it's very,
show.
yeah,
Very
we're
special.
already terrified.
I'm scared.
Yeah, you should be.
Matt, what is the theme?
The theme for today's show is ghosts.
Oh, wow. Well, that's actually great because I've got a new show. On,
Yes,
Audience
do
Network.
tell.
It's on DirecTV on Audience Network, channel 239.
I've heard of that.
It's called International Ghost Investigators, Hollywood Division. When the denizens of Tinseltown have ghostly troubles, they call us. So.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I watched the episode with Jenny McCarthy, which I thought was hilarious.
It was you saw it. Actually, the one you saw was actually a shortened version.
A shortened version. Oh, okay.
The one we originally did it, and then there's no my partner Paul Greenberg and I do the show.
Also very hilarious.
Very funny man. They told us there's no person there that does any standards and practices. There's not a person at DirecTV. So
Really?
that show is filthy.
Yes, it is. In a
that's-
delightfully scary
but,
way.
But that's the edited version. The full version is much more nasty. But the one on YouTube
Lay it on me.
that's not official.
Wow.
You
Wow.
should see the real one.
We should after the show just watch that.
I think that's what
some
we're
sort
gonna
of
do
like
afterward.
Wow.
Red Fox
Check it
party
Yeah.
record.
I could do that.
Well, the topic of ghosts. I mean, there's so much that you can do because there's movies, there's television, there's toys, there's just. I mean, it's the list is endless. But there are a couple of great classic ghost movies that I really really love. That maybe a lot people don't know them very well. Like one is called The Uninvited. This is from like 1944
Ray Milland.
with Ray Milland,
Yes.
and people forget this is the guy. He went on to win an Academy Award, not in this film, but I mean very very.
But
capable.
soon after that, I think that movie's just before Lost Weekend.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And this was when you were in ghost movies in the 40s. When you were in movies in general, you were low on the totem pole when you did a ghost movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
They were like,
within the next
Yeah.
year,
If you're bumping into a Bowery boy on the set,
Yeah, exactly.
chances are-
Yeah, back in the 40s, that was not a great thing. I mean, today it doesn't have that stigma at all. But back in the day, the guys who did horror were
Sure, yeah.
lower on the totem pole.
but
Yeah.
but like with horror movies today and monster movies, I mean, what's cool is if you can go back and check out some of these great classic films, like this film, The Uninvited. I mean, it's really cool because Ray Milland he's like this composer guy, and he and his sister, they buy this old house.
His
kind of
quote unquote sister.
Yeah. Well, they're buddies. They're buddies.
It was a different time.
It was.
Go ahead.
It was a simple time, and the rumor has it that the house is haunted. And when they get the house, they kind of find out what mysteries are involved in the house, and
Kind of like a classic haunted house.
Right.
kind of gone.
And a
there's
good
some
mystery behind who the ghosts are in that movie. Not
That's
to give
right.
I mean,
anything away,
I don't
so
want to
you-
spoil
no,
it for
but it's a
anybody
good
because
twist.
it really surprised me.
Yeah.
And it's not like things like there's not like blood and gore. It's just a really great.
It's all
process.
atmosphere.
It is.
And there's a really there's a couple moments that I think are like genuinely chilling, like when anytime like the dog won't go into a room, like that freaks me out.
Oh, no, that's great.
Yeah. I love stuff like that.
And I love like when you in that movie there's like the woman crying.
Yes,
There's something
yes.
about
So
crying. And, like,
yeah.
it's
That's
creepy.
the only way I can get an erection.
Really?
Well, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out because that is a really
It's great.
cool.
Now, Dave, you over the time that we've known each other, you obviously very much into film and classic film, and what would be one of your favorites?
One of my favorite ghost movies. One of my favorite ghost movies is The Ghost of Mr. Chicken is definitely one of
Oh,
those.
I mean,
wow!
but
That just gave me an erection.
I love that genre. I've been trying to make a horror comedy for a while. I keep writing ones
It's like a 60s horror comedy.
well, you know, first of all, yeah, exactly. But there's that whole thing of how when you watch a horror movie, being afraid and laughing, they're on that same like path,
Yeah.
and you'll see it in any great horror films. They'll scare you, and then you'll giggle right after. You know, like
Right.
they'll have a laugh right after.
Horror movies do have comic timing.
Yes,
Yes.
they do, and
Yeah.
also it's that whole nervous laughter thing too, where you laugh at the idea that you were scared at something that's you know they always do the fake scare in every horror movie.
The cat,
It's the fake one,
yeah,
exactly.
The cat comes out of the closet.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
needs to be a release, a little bit of release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what's great about The Ghost of Mr. Chicken is how and this is something I think that we've talked about before when you're doing a horror comedy, is that you have to play the horror straight.
Yes, you need real scares.
Yes.
and it has those.
And
the
the moment-
atmosphere is great.
When Don Knotts is spending the night in the haunted house,
Yeah.
it's so creepy
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
spooky and scary.
It's
Although the guy doing the spotlight, the timing's off a little bit. You know when he has the flashlight.
Oh, yeah.
Back then they had to do it with a spotlight because you needed
Yeah,
a
totally.
light.
Yeah.
So it's all shot with blue gel, and then the guy on the spotlight will be doing Don Knotts' flashlight, but it'll move and jump.
But then that's just creepy. You're like, wow.
Well,
it's
there's
like,
a lot
the
of things.
flashlight
about,
is
yeah,
possessed.
There's a lot of things about that film that are creepy, and people forget. It's like, oh, it's Don Knotts, and it's a comedy. Hey, but they forget. I mean, there's a lot of creepy stuff in that.
Well,
And just
organ music is always
looking
scary.
At
Music.
the organ music alone. There's there's a shot where you see the organ, and it has like the blood.
Blood stains,
blood stains.
yeah.
That creeped me out as a kid when I saw
They
it.
couldn't even get-
You couldn't get it out with Bonnie. And also like the painting, the scissors in her throat. I mean, all that stuff is so. First of all, hilarious, but then great scares. They're all real scares.
Right.
And when he's scared, like outside, waiting for the ride, like after he's run out of the house, and it's like you're with him. You're like, yeah, I would have ran out too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Even the beginning, like I'm already getting nervous when
Just when he's in the house.
But in the
Yeah.
house, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's getting him the flashlight, and the.
But before, because remember, he goes in the house at first because his car broke down. Right? Is it? Or
well, he hears it's near, isn't it? What is it? Calber Weems, who is hit by the plane.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Murder!
yeah,
Murder!
but he's like kind of in the house just accidentally,
Yeah.
and then brags about it to the girl, and so then the newspaper guy suggests that he go in and
Right.
spend the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's if you haven't seen that film, it's worth a see.
The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
And it's sort of it's kind of a nice big budget distillation of the Andy Griffith Show. It has
Yeah.
that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Definite
Great,
feel of the
yeah.
town. Yeah.
Great Vic Mizzy.
Big Mizzy
score, music
soundtrack,
score,
and
yeah.
Alan Rafkin, right? Is not Rafkin, the longtime director of
Andy Griffith
Show, yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
can't-
Rifka,
yeah,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, well, we should know
Is
that.
that ghost?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
ghost related? Do you know that one?
Remember all those Ghost episodes on
Yeah.
Andy Griffith?
They did have a ghost episode on Andy Griffith.
Of course
Oh my
they
God,
did.
It was
Of course they
counterfeit.
did.
It was counterfeit.
yeah.
Yeah.
At least one.
So it was more of like a Scooby-Doo. Like it turned out to be.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of those movies, and Ghost of Mr. Chicken is one of them. The haunted house theme starts off early in film off of a play. The Canary, what is that?
Oh,
Cat and the
Cat and the
Canary, yeah.
That's right.
Is the basis of basically every horror film, every ghost film.
Every haunted house, old dark
Yeah.
house.
Okay,
But
so
the
then-
car breaks down in the rain. You go inside, and then in that one, it turns out like the stage version's different than the first film, which was silent.
Right, and then they made
And there's a
Bob,
gorilla one.
Right, and then they made a Bob.
Of course.
Bob
Was that the
Hope
Ritz?
There is a
Right.
Bob Hope
Was
they
one.
the
made,
gorilla with the Ritz brothers? Was that Cat and Canary?
No, there was a Cat and the Canary where it's a gorilla.
Yeah,
that ends
that's
up-
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert.
the first sound version.
Yeah.
Just,
But it's also that great. I love when the Bowery Boys run into a gorilla. Kids in the hall do the sketch on it, but it's the whole thing of reaching back. You need to trim your nails.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about big budget ghost comedies, I've been thinking about Ghostbusters in '84.
Oh.
Great,
And-
great.
Yeah, but I think it might have been better if they played the ghost stuff a little straighter.
Well, they did, except for Slimer.
Except
Yeah,
for Slimer,
yeah.
But I would have voted to get rid of Slimer.
I agree.
to be
Oh,
honest.
no,
I agree.
I'm sorry.
I
No,
agree.
I loved Slimer, guys. I absolutely loved Slimer.
It was almost like Slimer.
Slimer was like the
kid.
yeah, he was like
Yeah.
the but he was like the you know, I don't know, the Red Skeleton of ghosts.
No. That's a little harsh. I don't think he was like the Red
But like,
Skeleton.
but
Also, he was the
like that
toy.
lovable-
He was like in the cartoon
yeah.
version. He was
Yes.
a lovable pet.
But,
Yeah,
like
but that
the
came
ghost in the
afterward,
library
you
was
know?
really scary in the beginning.
Yes, the
Yeah.
girl,
Yeah,
and then her
that's
face
true.
I don't,
changes.
Yeah.
I don't consider the cartoon part of the actual official Ghostbusters
Yeah,
canon.
I'm kind of ignoring that right now.
The real Ghostbusters.
And in
Yeah.
my fan fiction, I actually do an origin Slimer.
Well, I did like Slimer. There is something about that little pudgy ghost that's just constantly eating, and I just and
Well,
and
I
also
love
when
Abbott-
he ran-
Abbott
and-
Costello
and-
was great in the Ghost movies too.
But
Oh, yeah, Hold That
Hold That
Ghost.
Ghost.
Well, that goes. Now, do you know? Can you tell me? Scared Stiff, the Martin Lewis movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was, I think, based on a show or something too, right? Was that one that had been done again and again, or do you,
No, you're
do you
right.
know?
It was.
Gosh, yeah, I wish we had the internet available.
Yeah.
But
No.
that would be cheating.
Yeah, that's
And does
You really
anyone really
can't.
care that much?
Well, the whole, all those movies though, I think are based on the Cat and the Canary. I mean, basically,
Or,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
or
a,
other ghosts.
anytime you go into a house, the creepy butler, the whole. I mean, that was all those elements were in this play that took place in the 19 teens into the 20s. It was a huge hit on
Right,
Broadway. Also, Dracula was, even though we're not on that subject, but the idea of these stage plays. We were watching. You don't see horror stage plays like you did back in the 20s and 30s.
Right. True.
As an entertainment genre.
Right.
Well, one of my favorite ghost movies is The Innocents.
Oh
Yeah.
my! I have. Oh yes, I
It's
have that.
such a great movie.
What is that
based
one?
on? It's based on The Turn of the Screw, Henry James,
Uh-huh.
and it's about these housekeepers that were in some sort of torrid romance, and they end up dying, and then like a new governess comes on, and
Oh,
these
yeah, who's
little
in that?
kids are being
Deborah
Deborah Carr.
Deborah Carr. Okay, yeah.
And these
yeah,
kids
yeah.
that she's taking care of are now being
Possessed.
haunted.
Aren't they possessed?
And possessed
somewhat?
to kind of both.
Yeah.
Being kind of like influenced and
Influenced.
controlled by
Right,
the
because they're doing
ghosts.
horrible things to Deborah Carr, right?
The kids.
Yeah.
Well, they're just. It starts off like they're precocious,
Yeah,
but then
they seem like they're really good kids, but then they'll do things that you wouldn't expect these good little kids to do.
Right.
and there's always this sort of thing that like if you really heard what they were speaking about to themselves, that it would be this horrible stuff that they've been taught by the dead caretakers.
Right.
Without giving too much away.
Yeah.
And the way that's shot and the way it's filmed, it's not like you have stuff like jumping out at you or
No,
anything like
no.
that.
Another atmosphere
Talk
movie.
about
And that's also black and white, right?
It's
black
black
and
and
white,
white.
yes.
Isn't
and
it
it
a
is so incredibly
early
creepy.
60s or late
Yeah.
50s?
60s,
It's
61.
61.
See,
Yeah.
that's again that idea we were talking about before the podcast was you do horror films, you do dramas in black and white, and your comedies would be in color. It's a mad world, giant Technicolor, But then the black and white, you could be more serious or scary or
Yeah,
spooky.
right.
Yes.
Shadows.
And I think there is something to that.
Oh,
Young
no.
Frankenstein, which has nothing to do with ghosts, but again, it's like this great return to black and white film.
Right,
Well,
right.
there are certain things that really lend themselves to black and white and that treatment, and
Well,
I would say the Innocence is absolutely one of them because there's so many things that are done with shadows and like there's such a great. I remember this wonderful scene of where Deborah Carr is playing hide and go seek with the kids. She's hiding out and she's hiding behind a curtain next to a window, and she turns around and there's one of the ghosts on the other side of the glass.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Which that kind of stuff just if I turned around and saw anything
but
on the
isn't-
other side of a glass, I'd freak out.
Also, isn't he a Spaniard? Which would be very
Well, a
scary.
case in
Yeah.
point is also The Haunting.
Yeah,
The
I was just
original
about to say,
black and
oh,
white
yeah.
Classic.
Robert Wise.
That was
versus,
63,
versus the
1963.
remake, which was.
Oh,
you
don't
know,
even talk about
updated
that.
in color, which-
Don't even go there.
But the original Haunting is a great spooky
Robert Wise.
atmospheric film.
Well,
Well,
there's-
talk about
there-
iconic moments
Yeah.
like I think it's Julie Harris I think she's supposed to be in this room in the dark with Claire Bloom, and she thinks that she's like they're holding their hands.
Did you ever hear the
other's
stories
hands,
of it too? Where
and she's like, "Oh, you're squeezing my hand so hard." Then the lights come on or whatever. She sees now there was nobody there.
That's
I mean,
nice.
it's
That's
great.
And there's great stuff that they did that Robert Wise does, just with sound.
Yeah,
and he does
sound
these camera
design is
angles,
amazing.
and it's so great what they do.
Not as good as the remake.
now, but when she
Oh,
discussed
God,
she
the
discussed
remake.
working on that film though too, is they were horrible to her and kind of kept her on edge.
Really, purposely.
Yeah, purposely to keep
Because
her.
her character was like that.
She's
Her-
constantly
yeah.
in a panic, and also she was going through a divorce or something at the time. Like,
Wow.
it was a horrible time for her, and
Wow.
they kept
Good.
it going. Yeah.
So Robert Wise just got her like.
He's going, listen, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I know you guys are
I know you're
divorcing, but if
listen,
you could call
you can
her,
get off the phone. Exactly.
The ad campaign for that was great, though, which was, "You may not believe in ghosts, but you cannot deny terror." You deny terror, you can't deny it.
We
You know
fought a war against it.
yeah.
Great movie,
I
Sean.
hate
Great
these
movie.
terror deniers.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the whole thing with, in terms of, there's such a little fine line, even within people's realities and how people who believe in ghosts and also believe in possession and the demonic possession. And it's always like, depending on the ghost hunter, this is either a demonic possession or it's a ghost. We're not
Right,
sure.
right.
Diagnosis.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same kind of thing. And they always say they have a thing in ghost hunting that it's an active or an inactive haunting. Now, an inactive haunting is when it's memories of something, and you'll see it in film.
Like
It'll be like
lingering.
it'll be the dance ball, and you'll start hearing the music from the dance ball.
Right.
So it's like a
And that's
vibe
an
in the
inactive.
house. kind of
Exactly,
thing.
and it's basically reliving
Okay.
historical
Yeah.
moments.
Vibrations.
It's like
Right.
stuck in like a record stuff.
And then an active one is more of the poltergeist, or where it's an active haunting where there's a spirit
right,
in the
or like
house.
paranormal activity or something.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like a malevolent.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's like the entity.
But
Yeah.
now an active one doesn't necessarily have to be malevolent, right? It could be just
No, it
that
could
it's
be.
contacting
Well,
you.
they also can be just mischievous. They can also just be. Like I think poltergeist, the German word really means like
Hate the
mischievous
Jews.
spirit.
Right.
But I mean, it's
Right,
just
yeah.
playful. It's like
Right,
that
right.
type of thing.
Well, in most ghost stories, what the reason for the haunting is that there's something unresolved in the previous life, which the ghost is trying to work out by.
But it's also that kind of thing within us as human beings. We want to have a logical explanation for the haunting.
Right.
Right.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But,
Also,
Ra-
or-
but like
rationalizing
in
it.
almost every movie, in all the great ghost movies, they almost end up being, they prove that it's not a ghost, but then it is. Like they give you that little thing at the very end of the movie that it
Right,
was,
right.
well, it was
But like-
old Farmer Johnson.
But like, I always like this one where they always throw this thing out there where it's like, well, the entity doesn't know it's dead.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
right,
That's one thing.
Yeah.
It goes,
I'm not
But,
dead
which is
yet.
always
But it-
silly. It's like if you're like, what are you're hanging,
Okay.
like, hello, hi. Oh,
No, it
when
happens.
you eventually you get to a place where I think I'm probably dead.
Well, did you see The Sixth Sense?
Spoiler
Yes.
alert.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
well, there's a
That movie's about
couple of
ghosts, I
films
think.
without giving too much away. Without
I
giving
think
too
probably
much away.
everybody listening to this podcast
I would-
has seen The Sixth Sense. I can pretty much guarantee
Don't
it.
give away the seventh sense.
not.
That
Yeah.
Dave, you're saying Sixth Sense.
Oh, no, just the idea that, he just, he's a ghost. They're all that.
Well,
Oh,
that's,
God!
That's the great thing about that movie is that it's
Sorry,
from the other
everyone,
side.
sorry.
It's,
Right,
it's
right.
like
No, it's brilliant. That
turned
that
it
movie,
around.
it's
It's
really
an only
the only
brilliant
M.
film,
Night
not good.
Shyamalan Ding Dong
Yeah,
movie.
it's
I
the
love.
only good movie
Yes.
ever
Well,
made.
and along those same lines, not to give too much away.
Too late.
No.
Hey, it's M. Night
In a different
Shyamalan. It's not
vein.
M. Night
No.
Shyamalan.
In a different vein, the movie The Others from 2001. With
Oh,
Nicole
yeah,
Kidman.
right.
Not to give too much away about that particular thing. There is
Right.
a situation that where the ghost thing is, they're
Right.
not sure.
Who's a ghost? Who's not a ghost.
Exactly.
Also,
and
yeah.
that was really, really well done. Again, another film where it created, they used a lot of atmosphere and stuff
Right.
to really, make the goosebumps
I like-
jump. And
I like movies also where ghosts are gravitated towards someone who is grieving or has had
Yes.
a loss. A great film. Jumping a little bit ahead, 1980, The Change.
The change lane.
With
Yeah.
Georgie
Yes.
Scott.
Georgie
Georgie
Scott.
Scott is like a music composer, and his wife and daughter are killed in this horrible car accident, and so he's got to just get away, and he rents this like turn of a century house, and he's grieving, he's remembering his daughter and his wife, and he's all alone, and he starts seeing things and hearing things, and he doesn't know what it is. He thinks is he going crazy, but it does involve like a child of a murdered a ghost of a murdered child who's kind of reaching out to him because that it sensed his despair and it's trying to reach out to let itself be known what happened.
And then there's a couple other ones like that too. What's the one where it's the little girl who dies and she's trying to reach out and contact her father?
Oh, Don't Look Now?
No.
With Donald Sutherland?
I'm thinking, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's another one where it's like Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie are
and it's the loss of their
grieving
own
parents,
child, right?
and you don't know, like, it's a straight, like, they both are having visions and hallucinating.
And then there's actually even another film like that, which is, it's the girl's name. The Haunting of Mary. I can't remember the name of it, but
Audrey Rose.
Audrey Rose.
Yeah.
Right.
It's also a little more in the.
But that's reincarnation.
But that's
it's still within
that.
that.
Pretty good.
It is.
No, it's true.
You know, anytime when you bring, ghosts and kids into it, I mean, that
It's
really,
creepy.
It's incredibly
Well,
creepy.
we always said the creepiest thing ever. This is just personally with myself and our people we hang out with. Was the idea of hearing children singing in the woods. It's one of the most frightening things. If you,
Well, that's what's so great about Blair Witch, the original Blair Witch.
The baby crying.
Yeah, all that crazy
What the
stuff.
hell's going on? Why is there a baby crying in the woods?
that's a witch.
It's weird.
Save it for the witch episode. This is not a witch episode.
Well, here's
Also, in
the
the movie Poltergeist, they have
gonna talk about
that little
right,
musical children.
Now-
And
also-
it's a funky key too.
Which Poltergeist is based on that. There's a short story that's a Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Where the little girl lost.
Very much that. Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're great
Not a
things
fan.
of
Poltergeist?
Nope. Not
Really?
At all. Nope.
I love Poltergeist.
Don't care for it.
And I thought it was great.
Go ahead.
I think it's.
Here's what I want to say,
Go.
though. As much as I loved Poltergeist,
Yes.
and the great scene talking about inactive spirits and things,
Yeah.
was all the ghosts coming down the staircase.
Yes. Yeah.
Was fantastic, and that effect was so amazing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but to follow it with Poltergeist 2, where suddenly,
That I loved.
suddenly,
So
you've got, what's his name? What's the father's name?
Craig T. Nelson.
Craig T. Nelson.
He was scary.
and
He
Joe
just
Bidwell.
went,
He
he
was
just went through
great.
this, but Poltergeist 2, he goes, I don't believe, it's like you just went through it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And then
But
I
I
always
will say, the thing about Poltergeist is what was really cool. This film came out in '82, Matt.
Right.
82.
Magic Summer of '82.
And
Yeah.
the thing I loved about it was a contemporary film. Okay, now when you look at it, you could say, it looks a little dated or whatever, but it was a contemporary film. It was like people had houses that looked like this. Your families were like this in the neighborhoods.
But we're all, I mean,
and Matt,
we're hitting that Spielberg thing again. Like, okay, I get it. Yeah, it happens to us. E.T. can happen to us because we're in the suburbs. All right, that's fine.
No, the
But
issue.
There's so many crappy things in that. Like, there's a Muppet. Like, I'm not afraid of the Muppet in the doorway. That's,
no.
Can you-
I
from
take
the
that back.
Halloween store?
Take that back because
you that is awful because that
It is awful.
No,
Isn't
no,
it a-
was
isn't it a
great-
ghost doll?
It was an awesome ghost, Matt. You looking at it now in your 2014
But
mind
isn't it-
going,
isn't it-
it looks like a Muppet.
Back then,
Back
I went,
then.
oh,
No,
wow.
There were some.
Are you talking about the one?
inconsistent-
But
It's when it's Joe Beth Williams. She goes up and then the creature stands up and goes, just
right. Through the wall, through the
just keep away from my
Yeah,
baby.
I
the
just
door
like,
of the-
hey,
of the,
hey, Ghost, why don't you go
okay.
play the drums?
closet, right?
Oh,
I actually dislike the big giant skull more than I like the Muppet thing. The Muppet
really?
thing I
The
didn't
thing that
mind.
comes
No,
out from the
that's
side.
But the
crappy
thing about
too,
that movie
yeah.
is that to me it's less a horror ghost story than it is an effects roller coaster.
Yeah.
And a lot of the effects are inconsistent, I think. And I like all the corpses coming out of the ground and all that
But
stuff. But like it was more like an inconsistent. It was just like
Grumble, grumble.
There's nothing
Throw
better.
it
Listen,
in sync.
there's
Let's
nothing
do
better
it.
than
Wait a minute,
to
wait a minute.
screaming. Listen, go to anyone's house, anyone you know, during a horrible rainstorm, and just yell, "The house was built on an Indian burial ground,"
Right,
or
right.
whatever. It's a,
And really,
they
we got-
didn't move the bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, we got to go after the Indians. That really,
Yeah.
really, blame them for
But
something
you
else.
see,
Well, that was two,
Matt,
wasn't it?
Matt,
Yeah.
if you remember, the line was, "It's not ancient tribal burial grounds; it's just people." And it was regular people. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. It
Indian
wasn't
people.
Indian.
So they weren't going after.
But they were
Poltergeist-
trying.
Poltergeist
They were trying
3.
to.
No, that was just me.
Best
Poltergeist
horror film
3
ever
was-
made. No, just kidding.
Sean,
Just kidding.
Matt, if you're on a desert island, do you have a DVD of Poltergeist or the Amityville Horror, which is a straight?
That's a tough one.
You know what? I'll tell you.
Well-
Amityville Horror. I'll tell you why. Because Margot Kidder gets her kid out. She
does, kind of, yeah.
and I would have at least something to beat off to.
Well,
Like,
Joe
nothing.
Griffith Williams,
No,
actually.
I might be able to get a little bit of a chub when Craig T. Nelson is doing the
Oh,
before or
yeah.
after.
Hey,
Before or
you
after.
know what? Okay, you know what? So we disagree. Okay.
But wait, can I say?
Go
Can I say?
ahead.
Can I say?
Go
No,
ahead.
wait.
No, go
Can I
ahead.
say? Here's one moment in the film I do like
Oh,
that I think
oh.
is great.
Okay.
The
And
tree. The tree.
No, not the tree.
The kid counting the lightning.
Well, Dave,
No.
what is it? What is it?
I know, and it's not the doll thing either.
Okay,
Because that's
okay.
anyway. But in the kitchen with the chairs.
Yeah, that's great.
And when I saw that, I went, "Oh, this is going to be
Which
good."
has been ripped off by every other.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
So
good.
it's-
Yeah.
I think that's a genuinely scary, creepy
But yeah,
moment.
then they
I
went
wish there
all
had been.
out. It lost all subtlety after that.
Right.
That's what
But
it
then
is.
also, it's like that's all those films are later. That
Paranormal
Paranormal
Activity.
Activities.
Yeah.
That's all they are. Is that?
Yeah.
But what's
Turn
amazing,
the camera, come back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
the
But
heck?
but are often effective
Dave,
for what they
very
are.
effective.
those films are so popular now. I mean, how many have they done now,
Yeah.
Sean? It's
Well,
like
I mean,
four.
they tapped into something that was kind of fresh and
Yeah.
new. I mean, it was the
Oh,
original.
the found footage thing.
Yeah, the original Paranormal Activity I liked a lot. You know, and I actually liked.
I
the-
thought
the
it was
next
all right.
couple, too.
Here's the deal. I think all those things are all right for me personally when you first discover them.
Yeah, kind of
but
like
it-
Blair Witch. And when you first saw it,
exactly.
you know.
Well, the first
You can
time I
beat
saw
it.
Blair Witch was on VHS,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it looked
The best way to see
fantastic,
it.
and you really
Same
thought it was found
Yeah.
footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know anymore.
But now people are so.
But I don't
savvy
like
to
that
it.
as being a business model where the studios try to make films for nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one thing for young filmmakers to ask
Right,
people
yeah.
to do favors. It's another
Right.
thing for a studio to say,
Yeah,
"Come
really.
on, hey, do us a favor."
And then put like
Yeah.
$1 million ad campaign.
Yeah,
around
exactly.
it.
Yeah, which is what they did on that. Yes, yes.
Right.
So so Poltergeist, you
Spit
weren't
it
really
out.
a big fan of. Do you
No.
kind of consider it kind of like a schlocky? Do you think of it as a
No,
schlocky ghost
here's the
film,
thing.
or-
Here's the thing. Is
Some
that
people don't like cherry pie.
Yeah. and some people don't like apple pie.
she's
Exactly.
my. Sorry.
Okay.
The thing with that movie is that it's funny because it is a movie that I kind of want to like, and I have gone back to it over the years and tried again. And there's things that I think are creepy with the static in the TV and they're here and I'm like, okay, that's creepy. It's whenever anything else happens when they bring in the little person and all that.
In
And
terms of
and that
films
goes on forever. Like go into the light. No, not that light. That light. No.
You know,
it's
it
fun.
it
but I
doesn't
gotta
go on
say
as long as
that
you
film
think.
didn't scare me as much as like The Shining.
No, that's
Oh,
the thing. It's not really
which
a
is
scary.
The
No,
Shining,
The Shining.
is,
Yeah.
and I'm going to consider that a ghost.
Oh
even though
yeah,
it's-
absolutely.
No,
It's,
it's,
I mean,
1980s
if you look at the
Stanley Kubrick.
book, if you look at the book, it's like the spirit of the hotel, and it's like the furnace of the hotel is the heart of it and everything. And but it's certainly a ghost story when you go into it in the film.
totally.
And why remake that? I mean, that was the thing of Steven. He just thinks it's a horrible version of the Kubrick version, which is so wonderful.
It's so wonderful,
Yeah.
and there have been attempts. There was like the Steven Weber TV.
Well, that
movie
was the
one.
one that Stephen King
Stephen
actually
King.
Approved.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's terrible.
It is terrible. And the thing is, you've got to give up that idea of a great book doesn't necessarily make a great film.
Right.
And it's like, I'll tell you one thing in The Shining, which I love the film The Shining. I think it's brilliant. It scared me at the time, all that. But Scatman Crothers is the worst casting. I love Scatman Crothers, but there's no way you ever felt he was going to save the little boys.
Well,
because it's Scatman. By the time I get to the scene.
and
And then he gets the axe immediately. You go,
You know what I love too. You know what I love too about that movie is that as you learn more and more about his character, you're like, oh, you're kind of creepy. Like when you see his apartment at home and he's got
oh
all
yeah,
these,
yeah.
like,
But let me say that's
it's
very Kubrick. If you read the book, it's this giant Cajun. It's like
Yeah.
it's this like 6'4" Cajun
right.
who's this powerful individual, and he gets the sense that he needs help, and you get that from the movie somewhat, but it's still Scatman Crothers is 70 years old.
But Dave, here's something that's kind of weird. For me, Scatman Crothers. This is the guy who was the voice of Hong Kong Fooey.
Yes,
This is the guy-
yeah.
that's and
So
I
it's-
have to.
which is
no,
what I
so
thought
so
too.
take that back.
No. That I loved seeing him.
Hong Kong Fooey,
No.
Listen,
I loved seeing him.
I love
and
seeing
and
him.
No, Dave. I
And
loved
Cuckoo's
seeing him,
Nest, he's
and
brilliant.
It just when
Cuckoo's
he
Nest.
meets his demise, it just I was destroyed at that moment.
Oh, see, I was like,
I was.
I thought
no,
I thought it was going to happen sooner.
No, I did. I thought Scatman
I thought he was gonna go off the road
was
before he
gonna
got
kind of
there.
save the day, and I wanted him to rescue the little boy. I
Oh, you wanted him
I
to,
did.
but
I
did you really think the 70-year-old man shuffling along,
But you see, that's
barely able to walk.
But you see,
you know.
that would have been the irony. That would have been the great thing. Here's this old guy, who's traveling through this,
No, I think the
He's got
irony
the
is that
shining.
they spent half an hour on him getting up there only to kill him
And
off.
that's futile. I love that.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
I'm just saying, I didn't mind Scatman. I felt really warm and fuzzy when
Well,
I
that's lovely.
saw him.
That's lovely.
and-
But I'm just saying, it takes you out of the film of like that he's going to save him at all.
What
There's
Kubrick-
no feel. You never felt as much as you wanted him to. You
Yeah.
never felt he would.
For whatever the flaws
I
of the
thought- I
movie
thought there
versus
was-
the
I thought there
book,
was a
Kubrick
chance.
made it atmospheric to the point of, maybe more than any other haunted house movie.
Well, he made it unnerving.
yeah.
I think that's the good way to
Yes.
describe
Well,
it.
And
Yeah.
what he does is he might not hit the novel beat for beat, but what he does do is he captures the essence
yeah.
of the novel.
Right.
And
Well,
that's what you needed to do.
And the thing is, it's just brilliantly done, and everybody's so good at it. And you've got, our joke at the time when we were watching the trailers is if you were shut into a house with what's the actress?
Shelley
Shelley
Duvall.
Long,
You
you'd
would
go
go
nuts
crazy.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
yeah.
There was that feeling of like, really?
Shelley Duvall.
No,
Shelley Duvall, yeah.
Did you say Shelley Long?
Shelley Long was great.
That'd be kind of scary too.
Shelley Long would be great.
I don't know,
That she was in a different horror film.
I gotta say that
The
that
Money
is-
Pit.
Yes.
That is one of the problems of the movie. In the book, they start as this, dysfunctional but loving family, and then you see it disintegrate. In the beginning of the movie, they're already kind of psycho.
No, but in the book, it starts off where he's had an incident, he was drinking, he broke his son's arm.
Right,
All
right.
that stuff is there. It's just, when you see it performed, it's like more real. Because that's what it will be like. When you read the book, you're like, oh, I hope they work it out, and you want them. And
Right,
the way
right.
it's described, it's like you feel like they are on the mend.
Right.
And that's kind of what it is with Nicholas. He's like, listen, honey, forgive me. Listen,
Right,
I'm
right.
gonna, listen, I want to make a home for you guys. We're gonna take this job. I'm gonna work on that book. I'm gonna work on the novel.
Right, right.
All that stuff, and then that's why it's so horrendous when you roll up the paper and it says,
Yeah.
"I'll work in
Yeah.
no play."
Well,
I mean, that's so.
and I do
fantastic.
like the fact that he's psycho right from the beginning because it's like
You need
it's
an
like-
edge of that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a thing that you're like, oh wow, you so barely have the lid on whatever problem is going on right now,
Right.
and
this
that's
is
the
just
last thing you
exasperated.
need.
Yeah.
And,
It also allows you to think that it's in his head.
yeah.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah, that's
just
true.
being served the drink. You know,
And a lot of the
mentioned
stuff, that Kubrick did, like filming around this hotel, and just the shot of following this little kid and the little
The maze.
Big
3-wheel.
wheel.
No, I'm talking about.
Oh,
when he's
in the
running,
hotel,
and
yeah.
You hear him go over the rug. And
Yeah,
then
the
on
sound, yes.
the rug, and then the floor. Then
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rug,
yeah.
and just
And
this.
the design of the
and then
rag,
those
you know.
twins.
Yeah.
Could
yeah.
you have found a more
Oh.
creepy set of twins?
I know.
No, and they're still around. And they do the cons.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I
Really?
would love to see them
Oh,
at Monster
that's
hilarious. Me too,
Palooza one
me
day.
too.
Did you see the Kubrick exhibit?
Yes, at
was
Monster
fantastic,
Palooza. I guess it's Mike Hill, the artist who created the Jack Nicholson statue.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
at Monster
okay.
Palooza they had it was like a shining scene basically,
Oh,
where they
nice.
had the little boy, the twins, and then
Jack,
you have
yeah.
Jack with his axe. And
I think that's my wife's.
But I was actually
it's
talking about-
Facebook
absolutely
page.
unbelievable. If you guys go to Monster Palooza, and I'm sure there are photos of it on the.
But I was actually talking about the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, had the whole Kubrick display.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they had the actual dress from the twins.
Oh, wow.
And they're just, they put them, it was perfectly displayed. They're just the dresses.
Yeah.
Like, not even, but
Yeah, they
they're
really
full.
are ghosts.
They have three
Right.
dimensions to, I've got pictures on my phone, but fantastic. And then, it's just so, I mean, the whole imagery, the woman, the turning into the
Oh, my
dying,
God.
that image,
Like, that was, yeah.
that's so
There's an
brilliant.
interesting documentary came out a year or two ago called Room
Yeah, yeah,
237,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
which is 7 or 8 theorists who have their own theories about what's behind the movie, like the Apollo 11 landing.
And they're
Right,
all
right, yeah, yeah.
crazy.
They're all crackpots, but they all sincerely believe what they're talking about.
And that's available on Netflix, correct?
I think so.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
it just shows the power of that film as far as like it's a film that like people watch and interpret in their own way.
Right, and
I own that on
bring their own
Laserdisc.
things
I
to
owned it on
Yeah.
DVD. I'll probably get it on Blu-ray. It's one of those movies
Yeah.
that when it's on, I watch it.
Yeah, yeah.
Always, and,
This-
and I do love also the documentary on the DVD.
Oh yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I guess Kubrick's wife
Yeah,
shot.
that kind of documentary you would never see for any movie nowadays.
Yeah,
because
it's real candid.
he makes
moments.
Shelley Duvall cry.
And poor Scatman Crothers, like, what did Kubrick do to him? And where they're interviewing him, and he's just like, I just want to say that these people are beautiful, and this is a beautiful thing. And like,
You know, it's amazing. This film was made back in 1980. You know, and it's really hit a chord. You know, with a lot of people as far as like you know, spooky.
Well,
ghost
can I
movies.
tell you too? Is the brilliance of the trailer.
Oh yeah, classic.
When I go into the theater, because back then you didn't see them constantly like you see them now.
Yeah.
So when it came out in the theaters and that blood coming down, and they kept cutting back to the blood coming down the hallway, it was like I've got to see this film.
They didn't have any dialogue or anything. Did
No,
they?
it was like all the music
It was visual.
cuts to the twins,
That's
and
what I
Danny
remember.
with his eyes, you know,
Yeah.
going up in his head.
Yeah.
Red, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
All that stuff was
Yeah.
such great imagery. Brilliant film.
Was another Stephen King haunted hotel story turned into
Yes.
a movie, 1408,
Yeah.
which I rather liked.
It wasn't bad. It was one of those movies that I think I would have been pissed if I'd seen it in the theater.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that if you catch it on cable, you just go, "Oh, this was not that bad."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there were good things about it.
A
And
late Sunday
I watched
night or
it.
something.
I watched it, and afterwards I went, "Well, that was on."
But there were moments.
There's some
I
moments,
do.
yeah.
I must say, I do like, and we did it on American Horror Story, which I was on the first season. of.
By the
Great
way,
season of that.
the first
Dave
season
Higgins
was
on
the only one I've
American
seen.
Horror Story.
Yeah.
Ooh,
The first season,
the
which is
American
the
Horror
one
Story.
I like the best.
Yes,
Yeah, I
the
like
first
that one.
season.
But I do like that idea of the history, like seeing and the entity. What's the other film? Not the entity. The occurrences. It's not the entity, but it's like that.
And it's around that time?
But they go through there, and then you're seeing like the guy
well,
shotguns the husband.
It's not the Legend of Hell House. Legend
No,
of Hell House.
no. But
Which
that's
we have to
another
get
one,
to.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
'Cause
Well, let's
that
go to
is
Hell
one-
House,
That's
'cause
one of
I'm
my
trying to think
favorites.
about it, yeah.
I mean, Richard Matheson's story. I believe he also did the...
who wrote so many of the Twilight Zones.
Yes,
and-
yeah. Classic
so many
writer.
great
The original I Am Legend and Roddy
Which the
McDowell.
original one is hysterical. If you haven't seen anything with Mr. Price, though, where he's like, "I'm all alone here. I'll have to kill these vampires."
I'm going
The
to
last
work
man.
my lathe now.
That's a great movie.
It is.
It's not a
But
ghost
it-
movie.
but
Well,
it's funny
he's
to
not
watch
your
him.
typical action hero though. Vincent.
Yeah,
he's-
it's,
he's-
to
Well,
watch.
awesome.
That's why I listen to old time radio, and he does the Saint, which is
Really?
yeah,
He plays the
and
Saint?
they're fantastic because he's flirting with women and getting in those fist fights, and it just sounds hysterical. So if you ever have a
You're
chance,
one
yeah,
hot patootie.
it's that kind of stuff, you know. You're
Well,
very attractive.
So we did mention the Legend of Hell House. This is one of those films that let's see, it came out in '73, and it was shown in Northern California. I remember it being shown on KTVU Channel 2 like a ton of times. I remember seeing it, I don't know, like 30 times, but I absolutely loved it.
In the opening credits of Creature Features.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's similar to the plot of The Haunting.
yeah.
It's very right, yeah, and it has the same kind of ensemble cast.
But the
It's
idea-
it's like four people go. Okay, so they're all go to
They're
this
trying
house.
to scientifically prove, there's a haunting here or not.
Yeah.
Or
And it's
disprove it.
really
how to
well
clean,
done.
clean.
And how to clean it, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he called it that, as sort of an homage.
Hill House,
Yeah,
the haunting
Hill
of
House,
Hell
Hill
House.
House.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's great.
But there's a lot of really cool things in that,
Oh
that
yeah,
film.
it's good. It's really stylish.
And Roddy McDowell is great.
Roddy McDowell is always great, and then the kind of twist ending that's
Crazy
so weird and perverse.
bizarre.
But films like that, and also The Entity, I think
And
started the whole ghost hunting phenomena, which is what my show, International Ghost Investigators Hollywood Division, is all about.
I'm not aware of that.
Anyway, the ghost hunting, it
that
started
be
that
on
genre
DirecTV?
of people actually going out and doing that.
Right,
You know,
right.
like flash photography like in the early one where it's like the idea of tripping the strings.
Yes.
You know,
right,
and
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, how amazing if it actually catches something. And that's just that idea of people going out and like catching the sounds and the, MVPs.
And whether you ever
EVPs,
caught
EVPs.
anything, and it must be just a thrill to like you get all your equipment and you get out there and you get some static and you scare the shit out of yourself in some abandoned sanitarium.
EVP's thing is the greatest because it's, you're taking audio and then like a lot of times playing it backwards or,
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to find sounds that are.
You just hear like a, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's a ghost!
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you hear this.
And you'll notice
I
when-
want some
exactly.
cheese.
Yeah, when it says it underneath, it's a lot easier for you to interpret it the way they want you to.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
We think
Yeah.
it might say.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Ghosts speak clearer.
Yeah.
You know, we had talked earlier about anything with like little kids and ghosts. It's always kind of creepy. And there was a film. I don't know if you guys saw this because I don't know if it's really well known, but it's from 2001, The Devil's Backbone. That was the
yeah,
one directed
right,
by
yeah.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Because it's not a
Oh,
it's,
right,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah.
in Spanish.
Isn't it takes
Which
place
is
in
scary.
Franco's? Isn't it in fascist Spain?
Yeah, it
No,
Yeah.
it's in Spanish, which makes it automatically very scary.
Yeah, well, and
that's
you stick with the subtitles, but it has to deal with this orphanage
Yes.
and where kids are being taken care of during this war, and it is so incredibly creepy, and that film really blew me away.
Yeah, it was a good one.
That was a really creepy kid film.
That also is the idea of like when things are in another language, or when they're things that you don't recognize readily. They could fool you because you don't know it that well.
There's one step.
Exactly.
Removed from
like
it,
in
so it's like
Poltergeist,
you're watching-
we do live in suburbia.
Oh, stop saying
It's
that.
harder to fool
Right,
us.
right.
But I'm just saying, if you take it to Spain or
Right.
you know,
Or in fact, if it's an old black and white movie, it kind of lends already itself an air of kind of like.
well, a lot of times I just want to watch horror that's old black and white. Just like
right,
that's the
right.
mood I'm in. And like there's a time like I don't want to watch a modern one necessarily. I want to watch something
Right.
old. I want to see something like the
Right.
Cat and the Canary or
Or
something.
even if
Right.
it's something like ultra low budget, you don't really know. You know, you're out of that comfort zone.
Well,
Yeah.
no, right.
Something not so slick or whatever.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have one that's a very different kind of like ghost film, but it is a ghost film that people would maybe forget, which is a Herschel Gordon Lewis film, 2000 Maniacs.
Is that a ghost film?
Which
Is it
yes,
considered a
it
ghost
is
film?
A gore film. It's a gore film, and it's a ghost film from the 60s.
Uh-huh.
It's basically like it's these tourists are lured into this like southern town.
Oh right, okay,
and
yeah, I remember
they're
that.
celebrating this
Festival,
centennial
right, right,
festival
right.
for like the Union victory in the Civil War, but it turns out the whole town is, and this is spoilers.
From the-
sorry,
yeah.
the whole town is made up of ghosts.
Oh,
And they are killing all these people in horrible ways as revenge against the Yankees, and,
Wow.
and
Right.
it's great, but it's
Based
actually
off true story.
yeah. So, but it's actually it's a very cheap and kind of gaudy kind of gore,
Tawdry.
early
Yeah.
50s or early 60s gore film. But of all like Gordon Lewis's films,
It's my favorite
actually-
too. Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
actually
my
kinda
favorite
clever.
too.
And then
Yeah.
there's the whole, when you go back to that whole genre of, we're talking about the Sixth Sense, but the idea of those, especially the British films, where it's the compilation of all these stories where somebody's in purgatory but they don't know it.
Yeah.
Like they're all at the dinner table.
Sure, like Tales
Tell
from the
your
Crypt.
story. It's basically
Tales from the
how
Crypt
you all
or-
died.
Dead of Night.
Dead of Night, yes,
40s
that's right.
Dead of Night.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Sean, there's another kind of cheesy ghost film that I really like because Richard Carlson from the Creature film Black Lagoon is in it. It's a film called Tormented.
Oh yeah.
And
Bird-Eye Gordon.
The Bird-Eye Gordon. And the thing I love about it is it is cheesy. It's like, all the money went to
Yeah.
pay for Richard Carlson, basically.
Yeah. Effects are very cheesy.
And actually, I hear there's two versions. One, the female lead in it was her name Julie Reading. There's a little nudity in the film that they only used for the European version.
okay.
And the American
I didn't know
version you
that.
don't see. But without
It's
giving
like
too much
she's
away,
like a jilted
but
lover.
basically, yes.
Describe it.
Yes.
Describe the nudity.
Really interesting. So you have Richard
Sounds
Carlson.
interesting.
Not
That's some
sure
hot
about
ghost
wanting
action.
to be together with this gal. They
Right.
go up to the top of the lighthouse, and she.
Well, there's also stories
Beats his axe,
of
has
ghosts
accidents.
wanting humans to be dead so they can be with them.
Well, yes.
Right.
And there's this great scene. There's this great scene where he's having these
Women.
hallucinations, or what you think are hallucinations, and where her head appears, and he grabs it, and she says, keeps saying to Tom Stewart killed me, Tom Stewart, and he throws it in a towel, and he takes it outside, trips, and it rolls down the stairs. And it's great, and it's so great and cheesy that Mystery Science Theater took it, and they did a whole version of it, which is hilarious. But
So speaking of the sexy ghost,
yes,
The Spirit is Willing. You're familiar with that film? It was a Carl Reiner.
Comedy, right?
Yes, it is a comedy.
Yeah, that was I think William Castle.
No, it's Sid Caesar's in it. Sid Caesar's in it, right?
Okay. I think
Isn't it?
I think so.
They
I think
rent a
William
house
Castle
for the summer to
produced it.
write in.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
But the ghost wants everybody dead to have
Right,
sex with him.
that's right,
Made,
that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
okay.
Well,
I'll have to put that one down.
Well, then there's also, if we're going to go that direction, there's the Ghost in the Invisible Bikini.
Oh
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
That was
which is
Kubrick,
kind
right?
of that was
Kubrick.
that was
Wait,
Yeah.
it's an invisible bikini, but it's a ghost. So what's the point?
Yeah.
well,
yeah.
right, yeah.
That's true.
It's it frightens you on many levels.
Well, no, but
Yeah,
you're-
okay.
as a let's say you're a 60-year-old boy, or it's the 1960s, and you don't see nudity very often, except in National Geographic or Cosmo.
Right.
So the idea of an invisible bikini
Yeah.
is
The
lovely.
title
No
alone
matter who's wearing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then if you don't
And remember,
see anything,
like the bikini would disappear first, and then she'd disappear.
Yes.
yeah,
I remember that movie well. And a lot of these films all aired in daytime, daytime programming on local channels.
Right,
All
yeah,
over
totally.
the place.
With like Three Stooges shorts and things like that. Yeah.
So one of my favorite ghost movies is not scary at all. It's basically a Harlequin romance. It's from 1947, and it's The Ghost and Mrs. Muir.
I was going to mention
Oh
that.
my
It's also
God.
a TV
That's
show.
Rex
great.
Harrison
No, that's a
and Gene
great
Tierney.
movie.
Yeah.
Another example of drama in black and white, comedy in color.
Yeah.
when they did the
The
sitcom with
sitcom.
Right.
Charles Nelson Riley, was he?
that's
And,
right.
Hope
yes.
Lane.
Hope
Tro-
Lane
yeah,
and Edward
but the-
Mulhare.
But the
Edward
movie
Mulhare
was
was
much
the
more
most,
is more
But, you know, the movie-
serious.
yeah,
It's very dark.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
turns out
it's-
dark when he gets jealous, and the whole thing of there's the idea that they can't be together.
No.
And she
Right.
knows it, but he
It's a tragic love
wants
story.
exactly.
But
yeah.
it's a great
And
that
it's-
is
and
a
it's
great
very-
Classy.
It's devastatingly sentimental, but a beautiful Bernard Herrmann score. Which, and if it weren't for that, I probably never would have seen it because I'm a big Bernard Herrmann fan. But beautiful.
Well, in the lines of romantic ghost stories, I don't know. Is anyone here a
Ghost.
big fan of 1990s Ghost?
No.
Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore. You know,
chick flick?
it's funny.
Whoopi
You know, here,
Goldberg.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. You know, there's that film was huge, guys. It was a huge film. I mean, it made a ton of money.
Not totally.
And I was one of those people. I wanted that couple to, everything to work out. But of course, the movie's called Ghost. You know something's going to happen. And it was very emotional to me. So Ghost was something that I really liked.
I can't say I'm a fan of that movie, but it's got one of the greatest moments in it is when he's trying to annoy the hell out of Whoopi Goldberg by singing "I'm Henry VIII," which whenever I want to annoy the hell out of my wife, I sing that.
Well, and I don't know how many chicks I've been with that I did sculpting with.
and let's not forget that Whoopi Goldberg won an Academy Award, I think.
Yeah,
for,
Did she win for that?
Supporting
Did
actress,
she?
yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
I believe
Wow.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, see,
Wow.
Yeah,
surprised you.
there were no other movies.
No other
that
films
year.
were made that
Yeah, really.
year.
Just for the people out
But
there
wait.
who are
But
fans of the movie
now-
Ghost.
But wait a minute, but even in that movie, there's a couple moments where you go, this is interesting.
There were some
there's
interesting
the-
things.
the,
Jumping
uh,
through the subway cars.
Yeah, the ghost,
Yeah.
the ghost in the subway.
or how
And I
about
like the idea that when you get mad, angry, emotional, you can move things.
Yes.
You know?
Well, there's also something great. I'm sorry, but that whole idea of ghosts being able to see other ghosts, children can see you type of thing, or animals sense you, that type of thing.
or how about there's that certain moment when you do become a ghost and something comes to get you. Is
Right.
it this
Oh,
light? Or is
Rich.
it-
The dark
Speaking
kind
of great
shadowy-
there is that really
That's
creeps
creepy.
me
Another-
out.
I'll tell you,
That's creepy.
People forget about
Another
that.
comedy film that's great with that, a horror comedy, is The Frighteners.
Oh, yeah.
with Michael J.
Yeah.
Fox.
Yeah, because it does
Oh,
exactly that.
Peter-
It has
Peter
the Peter
Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
I
film.
that I don't think that gets a lot of play.
It doesn't at all. It was
I
not
think it's a little
successful.
uneven.
I thought that movie it was too cartoonish at times. I mean, it
A
went
little
too
too, yeah.
far. I think sometimes
I
it was
agree.
too much.
Yes, but there's some great aspects
Oh
to
no, there
it,
are definitely. It's a very
and it's an entertaining film.
yeah, it's
None of
impressively
the,
produced movie, but
there's,
it's like
there's very few of these films we've mentioned tonight that would be Academy Award caliber.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
say Shining would probably be one for me.
Sure.
but I mean,
The Innocents,
but
I would
yeah.
absolutely say.
Yeah, there's a few,
Yeah.
but let's say there's 5.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
I'm not just
I'm
saying
gonna-
The
I'm
Frighteners is a good.
I'm going to say 6.
Okay. Well.
all right.
6 out of
So
Also-
go ahead.
I was going to say also talk about like revenge ghost movies. I still love John Carpenter's The Fog.
Oh yeah,
It is a ghost.
It is a ghost
Yes.
movie.
It's a good ghost
That's
movie.
I like that one a lot.
It's the the
I enjoy
Antonio
that.
Bay that
Yeah.
you're celebrating your 100th anniversary, but the whole town, like the founding fathers of the town, kind of forced these seamen who were like lepers, and they forced them to crash their ship, and so they died because they didn't want them on the island, and then they come back enshrouded in this fog. And that film was really good. And what's interesting is that when Carpenter made that movie, the first cut of that movie, and he always has said this in an interview, like he admits it, like the first cut like sucked. It didn't work. He went much more subtle Val Lewton style, where like you didn't see
Suggesting
anything,
things, yeah.
which is an interesting
I think
approach.
almost always with ghost stuff that works the best.
But
yeah.
it didn't work in screenings, and they went back and kind of added things. But I think in defense of that film, the final product, they did a good balance. Because
Well,
you had the shock.
agree.
But what I'm
you
saying
know,
is there's something great about back in the day when you didn't see the monster or you didn't
Sure.
see the spirit or the thing until the end, where the guys put all the special effects in it. But now it's like they have
You know,
to.
nowadays,
The wolf man turns immediately. You know, it's like
Yeah.
the first scene of the movie, he turns instead of just mysteriously there's been an attack from animals.
Right.
You know, and I think we lose a lot with that stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
I think we absolutely have to bring up the Japanese ghost movies.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that as the idea of they've almost died
the
off.
Ring and Ju-on.
Isn't it funny though? Like
I prefer the Ringu. But,
I agree with you. I prefer the Ring.
I always found it so funny that like when that genre took off in Japan and became so big, and then America latched onto it, and like America started making Japanese horror films. Like it's, I mean, like why bother remaking the original Ring in Japanese is great.
But see, but most Americans don't watch like.
No, I know.
Foreign countries will watch subtitle films.
Yeah, but it's just funny that we just started making the exact.
But let me just say though, there's a little subtle differences.
Yeah.
Certain things that a Japanese audience takes for granted, we won't. You know, certain ways people react. The idea that a lot of people do believe in ghosts in Japan.
Right. Also, there are a lot of
culture,
a lot of cultural icons that show up, and that even just the style of the ghost in the Ring and Ju-on and all that is so very Japanese. It is kind of odd to see this as the sort of main villain in an American film.
Yeah.
But you know what? They do place the film in Japan. So
they do. But even like, remember the original, the remake of the Ring where you see the face? It's like
it's over the top. It's too much.
You never saw the face in there's a Ring. You didn't have to.
One eye is scary.
Yeah.
Again, it's like that idea though that you don't have to show everything in the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
I have a theory that when the maker of the Ring was a kid, he saw Poltergeist and thought, "Oh wow, a haunted TV. Why didn't the Japanese think of that? Well, I'm going to go one better. It'll be a VHS tape.
I'm going to make it scary."
But you know what? Actually, if you think about it, it would probably be a beta tape. Sony, much more Panasonic.
Damn you, Higgins.
We've talked a lot about, like motion pictures and stuff. I think we're kind of avoiding one of the most famous ghosts, which would be Casper, the friendly ghost.
Which was the worst cartoons.
One of the most.
I have to
Will you be my friend?
As somebody pointed out at one point, Richie Rich is actually Casper.
Yeah,
it's I think the very first Casper cartoon. Okay, Casper was created at Harvey Comics, and he came out like what, the 30s. It's like 39, and the first cartoon was in 45, and the first cartoon is he's actually a chubby little kid.
He's like Charlie Brown.
Yeah. Well, no. He's chubbier. Did
they ever explain how he died?
Well, that's the funny thing. They never did.
I want to know.
No. In the motion picture that came years later in the 90s,
which was just an attempt to destroy Panasonic.
Just a suggestion. Exactly.
They bought Universal. Listen, I have a whole theory about that.
No, Sean, I actually love Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Let me just say though, they should never have messed with the heads of Universal. When what was it? Who's the guy who was the head of MCA and when he bought Universal? He was he developed market. He was the idea of putting packaging where you
John French.
He was a hugely powerful agent.
The Seagram's guy?
Manager.
Seagram's
bought him later.
After that.
But anyway, Panasonic bought Universal and basically kind of threw all the executives away.
Not Lou Wasserman.
Yes, Lou Wasserman. So Lou Wasserman, one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. And he kind of pushed him to the side. And I think they greenlit all these horrible movies because Universal went so down in price by the time Seagram's bought them.
Yeah, right.
And then Seagram's lost money with it, and then it became NBC when they picked it up.
Yeah, that was like a bad period.
Well, but I just want to say, Casper, the classic cartoon, Dave, that's what I was talking about.
And they also, what's the other movie they made?
If we could get serious
Do you
for a
remember
second.
what the other movie is?
Serious.
Right,
Yeah, Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Did they make a sequel to that too?
Well, there were many cartoons,
No, but they made a sequel to
Like
They also made Garfield at that time. You know that.
No. I'm talking about the cartoon.
Yeah, I remember those.
1945.
Walter Lance cartoons.
Yeah, but the cartoons
the
were
worst
same
cartoonist
thing over and
ever.
over again.
I loved Casper.
I don't
and
miss
I
to
wanted to be
slander him.
Casper's friend.
Going for cartoons.
But wait a minute, hold on now.
But he also made Woody Woodpecker, Pete Panda. I mean, if you ever had meetings at Universal in the 80s, actually early 90s for myself, they would go in and they always say, "You got any digs for Pete Panda?"
Dave, I'm not saying
Woody Woodpecker was like, "Can we do a Daffy Duck that's
More
We
annoying.
really-
more annoying?" Yeah.
The only good thing about Woody Woodpecker is the Woody Woodpecker polka sang by Frank Sinatra.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Woody Woodpecker is
But
very
no, wait,
ghostly.
no, Casper's a fascinating. They didn't even know the gold mine that they were sitting on because Casper is such a frightening story. The little boy who died, and he's friends with the Antichrist. Hot stuff.
yeah, hot
Where do
stuff.
you get
No, that's
hot
right.
stuff?
It was
the
a
little,
devil.
the
Oh,
little
yes,
devil
yes.
boy.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Hot stuff.
Now that comes
Huh?
later.
I like
that
hot
comes
stuff.
in
Yeah.
the 60s.
He's
Yeah.
friends
But also,
with the
aren't they? Didn't they
Antichrist.
do Huey or
Yeah, the weird like
Duck.
retarded duck or something.
Yeah,
Like,
well, that
what's
was-
going on? Like,
Yeah,
They
those
were
are-
like
those
the
are-
worst
it's
comic
politically
books.
incorrect.
Those were like those.
mentally handicapped.
Let me just say, those were the
Large
comic
duck.
books that when you're a kid and you're sick, your mom would bring to you.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
oh, no, not crap.
I want
Yeah.
Tales from the Crypt.
wanted mad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
liked? Who,
I did
you,
like
you didn't
early-
like. You didn't like
early-
Baby Huey, then, right?
No.
Yeah.
A monster kid.
Again,
I
he's
like
not
the
a ghost.
Okay,
He's not a
he's
ghost.
not a ghost. So
Hey,
the
go on.
classic early Caspers I really
Going
liked.
from cartoons to toys from the 60s. Do you guys remember Spookies? They were like this little glow-in-the-dark plastic
Yes.
ghost.
Yeah,
It was
I
like
remember.
grandma
Yeah, yeah,
ghost
yeah.
and,
Yes.
like motorcycle.
There's
Well,
like
we
a
also did
hippie-
the
there's a
haunted
hippie-
house game.
Yes, yeah.
Well, we're
There's
getting
some-
back.
there's some cool
And
games
then
and
there's
toys.
the little ghosts, though, Sean. Those are so valuable now.
They glow in the dark.
If you go
yeah.
on eBay to try
Yeah,
to
they're
find
like
any of
thousands.
those, they're
Yeah.
they're
I
really
used to
really
have them all.
expensive.
I burned them though.
Oh, I can't
I'm
believe
sure I
you
set them
burned
on
them.
fire.
What kind of kid?
But their
Yeah.
ghosts live on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ghosts are the ghosts.
yeah.
But you were talking about games though. There is another really
Yeah,
cool.
haunted house.
Then there was the ghost.
Green
the
ghost.
green
Green
Oh,
ghost.
ghost
yeah,
with a
yeah.
finger.
Now,
and
did
it
you
go
guys
around.
have
It's
that?
No,
I
a
don't
friend of
remember.
mine-
A friend of
I don't
mine
know. I never
had
had
it.
that.
A friend of mine had it, and it's kind of like it's three-dimensional game. The ghost is green. He glows in the dark,
Do
and he
remember
has
that.
he
The
sticks out
fingers
his arm
also,
with
yeah.
a pointer, and he's pointing his finger
Cool.
down, and you're supposed to spin the ghost, and it spins around, and it's supposed to be
That's
pointing,
awesome. Why don't they make
and
stuff like
and you're
that
supposed to
anymore?
play it in the dark.
Supposed to play in the dark.
Kids
Yeah.
don't play games anymore.
Yeah.
Except on a computer.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
That's true.
But that was
So
a
now
really
you could have
cool
a
one.
3D ghost that would go around.
Yeah. If they could, there should be a Green Ghost app. There probably is.
Okay,
right?
Sean, did you ever do that? Like on the back of comic books, they would have, there were these advertisements, and there was one specifically
Yes.
for you could get your own ghost,
And it was a
You know,
sheet
and it was
of
a
gold.
dollar.
Oh yeah, that's
I
right.
did.
Oh,
Okay,
my God.
I sent my dollar. I
my
sent the
God.
dollar for the
Hard-earned
Frankenstein,
dollar.
and then the
And it was
ghost.
a sheet of paper. They
What?
said life-size Frankenstein.
Sheet of paper.
Have your own
It was,
life-size
it was
Frankenstein.
not paper. It was like a thin plastic. It was like a
Oh,
plastic,
right.
like
Okay.
a garbage
Oh,
bag
my
material.
gosh.
And the paint, the thing was on it, and you're supposed to put a balloon
With
blow the
helium.
balloon. Yeah, well.
Well,
One other thing about the balloons, what my wife, one of the toys that my wife got as a kid that she always wanted to find again, and I found it on eBay. It was a Casper the Friendly Ghost balloon, and what it was a balloon
yeah,
that
with
was
feet.
figured. Yeah, he was shaped like
We
a
had
figure
that.
eight, and you would blow it
Oh,
up,
yeah,
and you
okay.
take the little cardboard feet and tie
They-
little knots
Oh,
and put
yeah.
it in.
Okay.
It
now-
used to be an early Pizza Hut giveaway too. Was the Pizza Hut guy with feet?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, it's the
Now-
same
wow.
principle,
now-
but there's
now-
a Casper the Friendly
Now,
Ghost.
on a similar note here, in a comic book, it was advertised the Monster Ghost, and it was this
What was
ghost-looking thing with a horrible, horrible face, and it was only $1.
Yeah.
Only $1. And $1 was a lot back then, but you know.
It was.
Yeah, so remote controlled, right?
Right.
So I
Oh,
order
right,
this thing,
yeah.
and I order this thing, and I'm expecting, the remote control like
Right.
Johnny Sacco remote
Yeah,
control.
Right.
So I wait and wait and wait. Finally comes, and it's that exact thing that you're talking about. It is literally the Casper balloon with the sheet of paper that you put over it, and the remote
Remote control
control
string?
is a fishing
Thread.
line. Fishing line. So so I set this thing up just like, well, maybe if it's set up it'll look better, and it's like, I will say this. It's way more frightening than the Muppet Ghost in Poltergeist.
Why?
Why would you go?
Now, this is totally off topic, but there was a episode of Get a Life where Chris finally gets his submarine. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah.
And he puts it in the shower stall, and he's filling this whole shower stall with water, and then the water breaks. Like, it's like the beginning of the show. The water breaks and, like, knocks his dad down and, like, puts him in a wheelchair, and then he has to take care of him. But the whole idea is that he finally got his submarine that he had ordered for the back, which those were all cardboard.
Yeah.
From what I
Right,
heard.
right,
Again,
right.
we never had the money to send for that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a great episode of Leave It to Beaver where he gets he has to sell all the seeds or
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
you know,
yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
it is he sold. I think it was hair, well, maybe it was seeds.
It might have been seeds, or it was either that or like.
Because that was one of those things you could do burpee
Yeah.
seeds. But anyway, he got the projector, and it was this little plastic. So his dad went out and bought him like a real projector
Right.
because he had been disappointed as a kid. And it's one of those ones where you go, God, I wish I wish we
Yeah.
had to do that. Yeah.
Poor Hugh Beaumont.
Yeah, I know.
A million kids just like, be my father.
Who is now a ghost.
Oh!
Sean, thank you for bringing it home. That was good.
Yeah.
That was great.
Well, this has been a great,
yeah.
great episode.
This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Ghosts,
And,
ghosts.
yeah, we all ghosts. They've touched us
Yeah.
all.
It's
in many
amazing
ways.
how
Fun and
many,
scary.
and I'm sure there's tons that we missed.
Sure.
But it's a genre that is never going to die. It's going to literally.
Well, that's why International Ghost Investigators Hollywood Division on Audience Network on channel 239 on
Check it out.
TV.
All
That's
right.
why it's going to be evergreen.
That's
All
right.
right.
There you have it.
I'm
There you
gonna
have
check
it.
that out, man.
should.
Well, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Sean Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strode.
I'm James Donis.
And I'm Dave Higgins.
Keep America strong.
Watch.